How does it feel to be on the podcast now that
Yeah, so that was actually
oh,
that was one of the goals I had set was to be on it. So I appreciate you allowing me to reach that goal.
awesome. So you actually that was a manifestation, right? You said, you know what, my goal is to be on that podcast talking about some successes that I've had, and here you are. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, and that's I think that's important too. Just make sure that you set some goals. They can be small, they can be, hey, I want to try to make my money back in the first year of what I invested. Or yeah, I want to be on the podcast sharing some success stories. When you set goals, a lot of times they will manifest.
There are just too many commercial loan brokers that don't have a damn clue of what they're doing. All we're trying to do here is better the industry for everybody. At the end of the day, you can make great money in this industry, but in the end, it's all about helping people. People always say, Kris, how can I be a successful broker? It's two words: hard work and dedication. If you don't like talking to people, you probably shouldn't be in this business. Hey, everybody, welcome back to Entrepreneurs in Finance, where we explore the daily lives of CCTG graduates, lenders, and everybody else in between. And on this episode, I am proud to interview and introduce to you Don Argy of Gold Band Capital.
Hey, Chris, thanks
Hey,
for having me
hey,
on.
yeah, hey, Don. Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Doing good. Doing good. Doing good. I appreciate you, willing to be interviewed here. Um, so let me just remind or kind of run through for our viewers. You came through CCTG as a gold in May of 2022. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. And if you don't mind giving a background on kind of, what was your life before CCTG? What did you do? And then kind of how did you find CCTG eventually?
Sure. Yeah. So, I started off when I graduated from the Citadel, the military college in South Carolina. I went right into the military, into logistics, and I was doing that part time. Then I also worked in logistics, on the civilian side as well. And I kind of wanted to do something different. I did, study a little bit of finance in school. I always found it interesting. And I wanted to, explore my entrepreneurial spirit. And I was looking at different franchising options, and then I ended up coming across CCTG like one Sunday afternoon, and from there on, I was just kind of hooked on it, researching everything about the industry, and just kind of fell in love with it. And I was like, yeah, that's what I want to do.
And all right, so what did you do though prior, like for a job before you found CCTG?
So it's basically mid-level management. I basically ran warehouse operations, things like that. And in the military, I was in a platoon leader, in basically like a trucking company in the South Carolina National Guard.
Ah, okay. All right. Well, I appreciate you serving our country. Um, that's always good to know. We get a lot of veterans that come through here. All right. So, you know, obviously found the opportunity. You thought it was the right fit for you. Tell me about that week of training. What were the emotions going into it, and how do they change, if they change at all, throughout that whole week, that experience?
Yeah, I think, initially I was definitely a little nervous. It was definitely, my first, business venture. And so I was, but I was anxious to kind of just get started, right? And, as soon as the class started, I started to, understand, um, a little bit more about the industry. And I think you guys did a great job of, welcoming us in, and just kind of, giving us all the tools we need to get started. And then, as we went through the class, I definitely, as the week progressed, felt much more comfortable.
Yeah, good, good, good. And so when you left training, did you, now the fun begins, right? As we like to say,
Yeah.
or the real work, I should say. Talk to me about when you got home and kind of that first month, like what were you doing? What were your emotions?
Yeah, so it's definitely I was like, all right, it's time to go. It's time to get to work. So, immediately just started you know, reaching out to lenders, and just kind of get an understanding of, where they stand in the market, where their products are, the advantage of the products, are, and then, just reaching out to people, letting them know what I'm doing, and just trying to make those connections, with referral partners, and, just trying to develop leads.
Okay. All right. And did you have a game plan of what products you wanted to focus on?
Yeah, I initially started with equipment, and I kind of started to naturally just kind of go more towards real estate. So been kind of focusing on single family rentals to, multifamily, maybe like in the 1 to 20 unit range. And then also they're looking at construction financing, and just development financing, both residential and commercial.
All right. And talk to me about your first year. I mean, it's May 2022 into 2023 now, right? We're almost done with 2023. Talk to me about that 12 months.
Yeah, I think it was definitely a learning curve because I didn't have much, experience coming into it and I didn't have a huge client base. But I think, I just got out there and just started having conversations with people. And as I continued to have those conversations, they became much more easy and, I was much more comfortable with it. Kind of got rid of that imposter syndrome a little bit, and yeah, so within the first year, I was able to close a few deals, get a few under my belt, and that's led to more. So I'd say it's been a good first year. It's definitely I've just learned a ton.
So you weren't, and you may mention something that's interesting. You weren't really used to kind of going out and talking to people, just because you weren't in that position, prior in your life. So you had to kind of overcome, would it be like a more of a shyness, if you will? Like just going out and talking to people, or how would you explain that?
Yeah, yeah. I think initially I was shy and not as confident, with the language and everything like that. And I definitely stumbled through some of my first initial conversations with people.
Right.
But I learned from them, which was most important. And any lead that I've gone through and whether it ended up being a successful closing or not, I learned something from it. And I think that's when you're getting started, that's so important just to keep learning. What can I do better on the next round? And eventually you will get better and you will find those closings and start getting deals done.
I think that's a very important thing you just said. I think a lot of people don't realize that, it's going to take a couple of stumbles. And reality is it's a good thing that you stumble because you'll learn from that. Right. And I think people get all nervous that, they're going to lose something in those stumbles, and you may have, and you may haven't, but the
Mhm.
reality is it just builds you stronger for the next one. And I'm glad you said that, because a lot of people worry about that. And I think the message here today is it's okay to stumble and be nervous, and you may feel like you don't really know the terminology, and you're just, you're doing things that are foreign to you, but you just got to do it, and you'll get better each and every time. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And another thing that is just to stay consistent. Just if you fall, get right back up and just keep going, and eventually it will come.
Yeah, yeah, good, good, good. That's good to know. Um, Tell me about, you say you've closed a few deals. Is there a memorable deal that you maybe want to kind of highlight? Talk.
Yeah, absolutely. So a deal I did a few months back, I had a client that was growing his residential real estate portfolio, basically single family rentals and multifamily 1 to 4. He had about 50 units, and he got maxed out at all his local banks. They basically said he was growing too fast, and he was looking for some options. So it was actually kind of a two-part deal. The first piece was we were able to reconsolidate all of his debt in the portfolio into one portfolio loan for those 50 units. And so he was able to get cash out, basically a cash out refinance, pull the equity out, and then use those proceeds to continue to grow his portfolio. And then the second piece was we opened up a $7 million acquisition and rehab line of credit. So now he's got the cash out proceeds, and then he's got a line of credit to go roll and really grow his portfolio.
Wow, that's great. I mean, that's great. And How did you find that client? Just curious. How did
Yeah, we actually connected on LinkedIn, and I had a conversation with him about what I can do, and that led to him telling me about his portfolio. We started discussing options, and yeah, that's kind of how that started.
Wow, on LinkedIn. That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you find yourself doing a lot of networking on LinkedIn, or what activities are you trying to do? I asked that question because there's a lot of graduates that watch these, and they want to get just tidbits from one another. So if you're curious about sharing, kind of what you.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, I've had some success on LinkedIn. I think, most success is when you can, meet someone in person. I think
Mhm.
there's just a different feel to that. But you can definitely find success on LinkedIn. There's, a lot of, I guess competition out there. A lot of scammers and stuff like that. So I think some people are hesitant to work with people on LinkedIn.
Yeah,
But you can find some leads that way.
yeah, yeah. No, that's good. That's good. But so, back on the business development part, it's safe to say that you get most of your deals from networking.
Yeah, I'd say so. Absolutely. It's important to build relationships. It's definitely a relationship business. Um, you got to go out there and meet people, build trust, continue to share what you can do for them, and then you'll be the first, on the top of their mind whenever that time comes for
And
them to look for
abs-
something.
absolutely. Do you work from home or do you have an office?
Yeah, so I work from home in my home office, and then I also work with a real estate developer, and I work out of that office as well.
Oh, okay. That's good. And where are you from? I forgot to ask you that.
So I'm originally from Buffalo, New York, but I actually currently living in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Oh, great. All right. That's a great area. Great area.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. It's growing too.
Where do you see, like, what are your goals for, the next year heading into 2024? Where do you see your business going?
Yeah, I just want to continue to, build my base network. Eventually, within the next probably 2 years, I'd like to start hiring a staff. But I'm still learning as I go and just want to really make sure that I'm fully grounded and have a solid, network before I start bringing on a team.
Right.
But yeah, I'd love to eventually bring on some brokers under me and, start just continuing to build the business.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's good. I mean, and we talked about that in class. So it sounds like you're almost there, trying to add people to your business development team, I would say.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Good. 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 Um, are you happy that you're in this? I mean, does it make you happy? Is it fulfilling for you?
Yeah, no, it is. I'd say, the best part about my business is being able to help people. It's really cool when someone comes to you and says, "Hey, I can't, I'm struggling, trying to find a loan." And you're able to provide that service for them. And it's a relief to them. And so, I mean, that's definitely the coolest part of what we do.
Right. Yeah. I say that on pretty much every podcast. It's about helping people, right? At the
Yes,
end of the day,
absolutely.
it's really about helping people, and you can make good money at this, but helping people is great. To kind of see what happens to with the consequences of your actions and putting them in a deal, and where that business goes after that. That's great.
Yes, absolutely.
Really good. All right. Well, let me ask you a few things about just about yourself, so we get to kind of know you a little more in depth. But if I always ask these questions, as this gets to, I get to know you a little better. But if you weren't in finance, right? Um, and you can kind of do anything you want, if you just could snap with a snap of a finger, what would that be?
Yeah, I think I would love to be a sports coach, specifically a hockey coach. I
Okay.
grew up playing hockey, love the sport. A huge fan of the Buffalo Sabres from my hometown. And so I would love to be able to coach. And I plan, I have two young kids. When they start getting into sports, I definitely plan to become involved and coach on their teams and maybe have a coaching career with them and grow with them in their sports adventure.
Do they have hockey down there in North Carolina?
They do. There's a few rinks. Not definitely not as popular as up north.
Right.
But I eventually would like to migrate back to Buffalo, New York, actually. Just because I have so much family up there. And with having kids, it's nice to be around family. So I think eventually when they're in that age of getting into sports, we may be back up there. So.
What brought you down to North Carolina?
I'd say so school. Like I mentioned, I went to the Citadel,
Yep.
and definitely the weather was much nicer. And then I met my wife down here as well, and that played a big role. But like I said, I'd just like to be closer to family. It's so important, I think. So
You don't miss that snow, do you?
no, that's one thing I'm kind of dreading going back, but.
Yeah.
It's fun for a little while, but when you got 6 months of it, it gets old.
When it starts, you see those pictures when Buffalo gets slammed, the snow is up to the car roofs.
Yeah, it gets pretty wild.
It gets crazy. Um, what's one thing in your life that people usually wouldn't suspect or know about you? You know, any hidden quirks or anything?
Sure. So I'm a fairly laid back person, but I'm definitely, extremely competitive, like silently competitive, whether it's like a game of darts or or pool or just a board game, I'm like it eats me up inside losing. And I actually used to I like playing video games, as a hobby. And I used to actually, compete in tournaments and everything. And I almost actually went to Las Vegas to, in like a
In
first
video
person
games?
shooter. Yeah, yeah, I like, Call of Duty and Halo and all that kind of stuff. So I played a
That's
lot when I was a kid.
there's some people in the office here that play.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. Alex and those guys, I think they have like a night where they do all that stuff, off
Oh, that's awesome.
outside of work hours. I would hope. Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
that's cool. Um,
Yeah.
if there's one person you could sit down with, I always like to ask this question and spend a day with, kind of pick their brain, whether they've passed on or here presently. Who would that be?
Yeah, so for me, I would say it's my grandfather on my dad's side. He was a successful business owner. He was also the father of 9 children. And he was just, he passed when I was really young. I really didn't get to know him, but everything I hear about him, he's just a great guy, a humble guy. And I think, I could have learned a lot from him, as well. So that's someone that I would like to, I'd love to sit down with for a day and get to know.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Um, what would be, I'll say this in this business, right? What's your favorite part of the business? What's your favorite part about what, at least?
Favorite part, yeah, I would say it's kind of like I mentioned earlier. It's just being able to help people. That's and it's kind of a win-win, right? You can make money, but it's also being able to help someone as well who's looking to grow and maybe they're struggling, can't get what they need from somebody else, and being able to be that person that can get them what they need. That's just such a cool feeling.
Yeah, and what and I'll ask you this question. What's the thing you absolutely hate about the business?
Uh, I think the the finance broker laws and regulations, state to state, it can be a little confusing at times, and kind of cumbersome to keep up with. So, I wish that there was, more of like a universal law that was a little bit more cut and dry. I would say that that would be something I would want improved.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I know various states are weird, particularly sometimes California.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
can get weird. I get that. And I think the industry hopefully is getting there. With respect to possibly, having something, in the next 5, 10 years that would make something universal, which I agree with. Uh
yeah.
okay. Tell me what advice, I'll ask you this. What advice would you give to other CCTG brokers, that may be struggling, right? That are struggling to kind of find their niche. And quite honest, I think there's a lot of stories out there similar to yours where you didn't have really experience coming into the finance and you weren't really comfortable uh doing what it takes to get, to get this business done. Going out, networking, talking to people. So I'd love to hear your answer to that, because I think there's a lot of people that come in, they're excited, they realize the power of the model, but they don't have experience. We give them all the resources, and they're uncomfortable when they leave training. They're kind of like, gee, I'm not used to going out and networking, and what. So you're a classic example of that, and it seems like you've overcome that. What would be your advice to?
Yeah, I think the worst thing that can happen is, a conversation doesn't go well and maybe that person doesn't want to talk to you anymore,
Yeah,
So just don't be afraid to, and stay consistent. You just gotta keep on going, even if you're not, maybe finding success, it does take time to build relationships and network. And so you just gotta keep, reaching out to people, letting them know what you're doing, and eventually over time that will come. It's definitely especially if you're someone like me who came in with not really a whole, a huge network to initially reach out to. You got to build that network. And
right.
so just staying consistent. Every week, I'm always, I keep gonna keep a routine, whether it be on social media, try to make some networking events, at least, maybe couple times a month. And so, you just gotta stay consistent. And over time it will come. It doesn't happen overnight.
No, it doesn't happen overnight. That's good. And stay consistent, have that work ethic. Which is what we preach here. So,
Absolutely.
um, all right. So now it comes time, kind of in the podcast, where you can ask me really anything you want. Doesn't have to be even about the business, but so I'll give you the floor and kind of turn around the
Okay, cool. Yeah. So I mean, you've grown already multiple businesses, and you found a lot of success. What's next for you? Do you have another business venture that you want to go for, or what's next?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. What's next? There's always some things in the pipeline that we're looking to do and improve upon. I think, if something next comes along, which is good, but there's things that we're trying to grow and overcome some challenges, and improve upon. I think that, oftentimes I look back, it doesn't have to be the next biggest, brightest thing that I have to be doing, but sometimes you have to look back on our existing businesses and say, okay, how could we improve what's going on here, or make, have a better experience or do something better. So, that's always in the back of my mind, and so I guess that would answer your question. It's there's not like a huge thing on a horizon of what's next. It's looking at our current business models and overcoming some challenges that we may be having with some of them, or looking to better the experience for our clients that we have, no matter what company it is.
Awesome. And do you, ever see yourself retiring, or are you someone that, just, plans on kind of doing work in some aspect throughout your whole entire life?
Yeah, I don't know. I always say, I don't believe in the concept of retirement. I don't, because I think people, honestly, I think people retire from jobs or careers they don't like or they don't enjoy, right?
Right.
Our parents that maybe grew up, and they worked maybe a factory job, and that they look forward to that day they can just retire. But if you do what you love, I can't see myself retiring in any capacity. You get bored. I mean, you get bored, and you can have all the great things, but you still get bored. I think, you become accustomed to doing what you love. You never want to retire. And that would be myself.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, that's kind of, how I feel. I don't, I think I'll always do some kind of work. I think it's important just to stay moving and everything like that. So
Yeah, for
I'm a
sure.
long way from that time anyways, but what about what are some of your hobbies outside of work?
Some of my hobbies. Well, I would say work, but that, that's in there, because sometimes you don't consider work as work, right?
Right.
It's a personal hobby. But as I mentioned, I get that question. I do get that question a lot on here. I do like, I'd like anything to do with an automobile.
Okay.
I in my free time I like to drive. I like to link up with other people who drive. I like to, get cars on the track and do those sort of things. It's kind of decompression time. It's funny. I live about an hour to and from work, and I enjoy driving to work. I enjoy that experience. So it's just that would probably be my, one of my I would say biggest hobbies. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have a favorite vehicle or?
You know what? That's a great question. And this probably sounds weird, but I don't. I actually don't have a favorite vehicle. It's like saying, it's like I view cars they all have different personalities.
Yeah,
So I don't have a favorite. I have a favorite depending on the mood you're in, the type of experience that you want. I think, and only a true car person I think would understand that like yeah, they all have four wheels, right? And they all function to some degree the same, but there are a lot of differences. The
oh
way the car
sure.
handles, the speed, how it, just how it feels, the type of engine it has, the sound that it has, right? So
Mhm.
they're all different. And I wish I can say an answer, oh, this is my favorite, but they're all my favorite depending on the mood that I'm in and what do I want to do and what do I want to achieve, if that makes sense.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. Yeah. So, um, let me turn it around again here. I appreciate those questions. What, what advice would you have? So I just have one last question here. I think it's a good one, but what advice would you have to, people looking into CCTG, right? As you did, you did your due diligence, but people that are maybe viewing this that are thinking about possibly attending, would you have any advice for anybody in that realm?
Sure. Yeah. I actually had someone looking into it reach out to me, and so I think talking to a graduate and learning about their experiences, and talking to maybe multiple graduates, and seeing what their experience was. I think that's important. I definitely watched a lot of these podcast
You
videos.
watch you watch these podcasts prior to coming.
Yes, I sure did. And that definitely helped kind of, ease my mind a little bit. And so I think that's important. And yeah, just talking, you feel so much more comfortable when you can actually talk to someone who's been through it. And it kind of makes it feel more real.
Yeah, it does. It does. How does it feel to be on the podcast now that
Yeah, so that was actually
oh,
that was one of the goals I had set, was to be on it. So I appreciate you allowing me to reach that goal.
awesome. So you actually that was a manifestation, right? You said, you know what? My goal is to be on that podcast talking about, some successes that I've had, and here you are. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, and that's I think that's important too. Just make sure that you set some goals. They can be small. They can be, hey, I want to try to make my money back in the first year of what I invested. Or yeah, I want to be on the podcast sharing some success stories. When you set goals, a lot of times they will manifest. So
Yeah, for sure. That's a great ending note. Well, listen, Don, I appreciate you taking the time to be on this. I know you're busy, and especially at the stage of where your business is at. So it's great seeing you again, and thank you for sharing your story with us.
yes, thanks so much for having me on, Kris.
All right. Well, that wraps it up for this episode of Entrepreneurs in Finance. Make sure you download our app on Android or iPhone so you can catch the latest episodes. And we got a bunch more coming out for you here before the end of the year. So we will catch you on the next one. Thanks, everybody. There are just too many commercial loan brokers that don't have a damn clue of what they're doing. All we're trying to do here is better the industry for everybody. At the end of the day, you can make great money in this industry, but in the end, it's all about helping people. People always say, Kris, how can I be a successful broker? It's two words, hard work and dedication. If you don't like talking to people, you probably shouldn't be in this business.